right? When it comes to mortgage brokers, it's not always about the rate.
It's not.
It's how you tell the story, right? And it's how you get things done. Because somebody can give you a great rate, but if the product is shit, like what happened, I remember in 2018, I think it was BMO had this great product at the time. It was like a 2.99% mortgage, which is at the time everything was going for over 4%. Mm-hmm. But it was a no frills mortgage, right? Mm-hmm. Which means you couldn't port that mortgage. So if you bought a house and you had to do a 4-year mortgage and you wanted to move, you couldn't port that. You'd have to break the mortgage with a huge penalty. Mm-hmm. There was no like what they call them, mortgage vacations. Anyway, you couldn't pull a HELOC from it. It was just basically this is a vanilla, and you're locked in. Mm-hmm. It sounded great on paper. The rate was great, but everything else about the product sucked. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing with mortgage brokers. It's like I could talk to one mortgage broker and they're like, how do you tell my story so that I'm able to afford a property? Like, you see what I earn. And especially entrepreneurs, that's a big part of it too, because entrepreneurs like technically don't have like a T4 for them to come in, like some of their money's on cash. So when you talk with a broker, they're able to align you with a lender that knows how an entrepreneur works, as opposed to a bank. A bank will only put you in a silo and say, like, unfortunately, this is all you can afford. That's all you're going to get. Now, not to say a mortgage broker can't get you into one of the banks, because they usually work with TD and Scotia and sometimes HSBC, but they tell a much different story as a broker as it would be from actually going into the bank and just dealing with somebody in there.
Well, we're back in the building. DC Talks Podcast. I'm your co-host, Owen Osinde. I'd like to call me Agent Double O. This is episode 15 with DC. DC, how you doing?
I'm good.
You doing good? I see you rocking the gray and black. Nice combo.
Yeah, I thought I'd change it up a little bit for you,
ash gray and black.
Yeah. Just getting into the vibe, a little V-neck.
V-neck,
I usually like to do the tight to my neck.
Everything's black and white. Even the beard skis is salt and pepper too. The silver and black.
Oh yeah, man. I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah. I got the George Clooney vibe going.
I don't know if I'm that good looking.
Yeah, of course. But, one of the key things I wanted to chat with you about today and make this episode about is relationships. You're someone who's in the business, you're in the real estate business. It's a relationship heavy business.
What? No, really? Oh. Yeah, it's not just about selling houses. 100% real estate.
It's all about building relationships, taking care of people, making sure that they're taking care of you at the same time. Mm-hmm. And also just understanding the people you need to build up your business, the relationships you need to build up your business so you can thrive and you can actually have a long-standing business year after year. Mm-hmm. So to kick things off from the top, what makes a great relationship to you in business?
I think a lot of it's mutual respect.
Yeah.
I think that if you don't have mutual respect, it's a non-starter. Mm-hmm. If you're looking just to, especially for a long last relationship, you're just trying to use them as like getting in and out. Yeah, that's just not
transactional.
Transactional.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
You don't like transactional?
Can't stand it.
Is there times that transactional will be good for?
Yeah. If somebody really, it happens. Sometimes, and unfortunately, sometimes a transaction happens without control. It becomes transactional, not because you don't get along with the person or the relationship's not there. They might be moving out of province, out of country, and just unfortunately, you try to keep in touch. It just doesn't happen that way, so it becomes a transaction, but not the sense that I would say a regular transaction. I'm not like, all right, never going to talk to you again, see you later. No. There are some times I've had some very few clients in which, as soon as the transaction was done, and they're like, okay, our business is done, please don't contact me again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you get some nightmare clients, and I've been fortunate enough to have most of my clients are fantastic, but once in a while you run into a client who's a little less than fantastic, and and it's like, okay, once this transaction is done,
it's time to kick rocks.
Exactly.
Yeah. And as a realtor, you work with a lot of people. Like, you have people who are doing staging for you. You have people who help you get deals, like mortgage brokers and lawyers. Mm-hmm. When you first started out, how did you seek these people out to be like concrete partners that you can see moving forward with?
Well, the first part was some of that was innately happened because I've owned rental properties at this point. Mm-hmm. So I was able to weed out some of the contractors, which I didn't like, and then we became friends and stuff. So you knew where, if you needed a plumber, if a client needed a plumber, needed a roofer, needed something else, that happened because of my experience. Mm-hmm. When it came to the industry in itself, basically you tested people out, really. Like, you come into contact with a lot of mortgage brokers. As much, there's a lot of realtors out there. There's a lot of mortgage brokers. and they're all offering certain things and stuff. So there's some you get aligned with. It just your personalities get aligned and the same goals, but then it's also how they work. So sometimes you would test them out with, try this client, let's see how it works. And you rely on a lot of feedback from my clients to be open on how did they do? Were you happy with this? Did you like this lawyer? Not this lawyer. What did you find about it? And basically it was a lot of it's trial and error. But I think when you and I both talked about like going through gut, when you meet somebody, you just have, so when I met you and Alex and now Isaac as well, Isaac does all this beautiful camera work and the mics and does make sure everything looks pretty and all that.
Top guy.
Awesome guy. I knew right away when I met you that we would get along and that this would work. It's kind of like innately, right? So there's certain things that I thought we were aligned in a lot of certain things, but I say no to a lot more people than I always give them interviews. I tried. It's the same thing with testing people out, like when you're interviewing them. But at the end of the day, there's something inside you, whether it's God-given or just your gut, whatever you call it, that you kind of know, and you're just kind of like. But sometimes you still test things out just in case, just to test your gut out. But I think a lot of that comes through trial and error and feeling out your gut.
Yeah, likewise, man. That was a great day. We all met. It was just it was like divine. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you can see the energy, you can feel. We can do great work together. Like I know it even before we haven't executed on anything, but I just feel like if we get to work, we can make a lot of great things happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that too. And it's like it's not always the person at the top of the game or has been making the most money or something too. And sometimes it's not some of the bottom is always hungry. It's something about that person, because you can be in anywhere throughout that spectrum and they sometimes align with you and sometimes they don't. That's why we talk about realtors. So, like there's many realtors out there because there's not one size fits all. Figure out what works out for you. And it's the same thing with all of your contacts.
Yeah.
It just happened that with my wife being the staging stuff too, that kind of worked out. But that was, that happened like organically, and it was just the right fit, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if I had to fire her. That'd be hilarious.
That'd be the home life would definitely take a down.
Well, she might fire me before I fire her. Maybe you're too demanding. I'm like, oh, really? That's why you married me, right? So.
Exactly. When you're working with mortgage brokers specifically, or any other person that you gotta continue giving business to them and they give you back business, do you always have like a counter where, okay, let's say Alex and Isaac are two mortgage brokers here. I gave Alex business this time. I got to give Isaac business this time. Do you just give business to people who have given you business, or do you just spread it out and just continue nurturing those relationships with the time? What's your methodology behind it?
So in the beginning, it was more like, testing people out. There's not a scorecard, I would say. There's not a 1-for-1, those kinds of things. But I have a couple of trusted mortgage brokers that we work with. Like you have to, and a lot of times we should be giving them like 3 or 4 anyway. But when I give somebody, I tell them to call them because I'm like, these are ones I absolutely trust and I trust them, right? So if I trust them, but figure out to say the same, which one resonates better with you. It's not always about the rate. When it comes to mortgage brokers, it's not always about the rate.
It's not.
It's how you tell the story, right? And it's how you get things done. Because somebody can give you a great rate, but if the product is shit, like what happened, I remember in 2018, I think it was BMO had this great product at the time. It was like a 2.99% mortgage, which is at the time everything was going for over 4%. But it was a no frills mortgage, right? Which means you couldn't port that mortgage. So if you bought a house and you had to do a 4-year mortgage and you wanted to move, you couldn't port that. You'd have to break the mortgage with a huge penalty. There was no like what they call them, mortgage vacations. Anyway, you couldn't pull a HELOC from it. It was just basically, this is a vanilla, and you're locked in. It sounded great on paper. The rate was great, but everything else about the product sucked. So it's the same thing with mortgage brokers. It's like I could talk to one mortgage broker and they're like, how do you tell my story so that I'm able to afford a property? Like, you see what I earn. And especially entrepreneurs, that's a big part of it too, because entrepreneurs like technically don't have like a T4 for them to come in, like some of their money's on cash. So when you talk with a broker, they're able to align you with a lender that knows how an entrepreneur works as opposed to a bank. A bank will only put you in a silo and say, like, unfortunately, this is all you can afford. That's all you're going to get. Now, not to say a mortgage broker can't get you into one of the banks, because they usually work with TD and Scotia and sometimes HSBC, but they tell a much different story as a broker as it would be from actually going into the bank and just dealing with somebody in there. So yeah, so a lot of times I will whittle down like who I like to work with, and I don't force anybody to use any of my contacts. I just know my contacts are pretty rock solid.
Yeah. So relationships sounds all, rosy and everything. There's relationships that served you, they made you prosperous, you both made money, but they no longer serve you anymore. How do you end a relationship? Let's talk about that. Like, there's that side of things we never talk about. Like, how's your side of things on that side?
Well, there's a couple of one. I had to say flat out, I can't use you.
You can't.
No, there's a couple. I had a mortgage broker, 2 mortgage brokers that screwed me on deals that I had to go and get. Hopefully this doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, but screw
Keep it real.
I had a broker which we worked at the same club together. It was a kickboxing and jiu-jitsu club and everything. And he was my kickboxing instructor, and he just started mortgages, very hungry and stuff too. And our head guy had his brother. He gave him some money to purchase a property. He's like, I want you to be the broker for the mortgage to the sensei. And he goes, and you're going to be the realtor, Dave. I said, great. So I made sure I did everything I possibly could. We put a finance condition. We found him a property. When I let the other broker run with it, I said, here, we have a 5-day financing. Let me know. And he kept telling me, he goes, oh, it's fine. They're putting 50% down. It's fine and stuff. Okay. So I'm like, can we waive the condition? Yeah. You're good. You're fine. Well, this is 2018. We went away for our 10th anniversary to Spain. It's our family. So the 4 of us, with my wife and 2 kids, and our mothers came with us too. It was 6 of us. Went to great Spain. So we're all over Spain. Went to Mallorca, like it was Barcelona. It was beautiful. And I was following up with my client, just saying, because we're closing when I was getting back. So I said, listen, I'm going to be on vacation for 2 weeks. Let me know if there's anything. And I would call him. I'm like, it's about 3 or 4 weeks after I got back from close. And I'm like, so I'd message him, how's it going? He goes, well, it'd be much better if I had a mortgage. I'm like, what are you talking about? And long story short, what I found out afterwards was that because the broker was still new, didn't actually do any research behind the building that we had purchased. And because it wasn't a traditional mortgage, you didn't go through a bank. So if you go through a big bank, a lot of times they don't really black out a lot of places. Like there's very few buildings. But if you go through mortgage, like some of the smaller ones, they kind of pick and choose some of these buildings they like. Even though the status certificate was okay and everything else, it was we found out afterwards that this building was blacklisted from a lot of these lenders, which means you can't get a mortgage. Doesn't matter what you do, you can't get a mortgage. And he didn't tell me that. And I said, you told me to waive this condition. He's like, what didn't he goes, oh, and so he's like, he was telling me he was working on the side. And then 2 weeks before, a week before closing, he goes, I can't do this. He goes, I can't find a mortgage. I need to back out. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I ended up pulling strings from a guy I knew, from another guy who we ended up getting private. I had to pay for $800 for like a quick appraisal. And the guy ended up closing the deal, but had to pay 13% of interest only mortgage. And we closed the deal. Wow. And I had to fire. I said, and then what I found out afterwards, this broker was throwing me under the bus saying, oh, I did everything wrong. I'm like, so I called him. And this is how I ended a relationship. I'm like, so what did I do wrong here? Well, you shouldn't have bought this property. I was like, said Thomas, you had a 5-day financing. Yeah. I'm like, you're supposed to do research on the building, making sure you can get the mortgage. Your job is to secure the mortgage. When I don't do anything unless you tell me. You told me to waive the condition. And he kind of got quiet. I said, so what part of this conversation did you tell me once we weren't approved? You told me we were fine. Go ahead and waive. So, and that's based on your instruction. Now you're going around telling people it was my fault. I did everything wrong.
It's trying to ruin your reputation.
Yeah. And everybody knew the club that wasn't my problem. Yeah. Then he apologized and said, listen, never call me again. I don't want to deal with you ever again.
Yeah.
And I was like, so first of all, you screwed me on a deal. You cost me $800 out of my own pocket just to get a deal done. You screwed over our mutual client, and he talked shit about me. When I solved the problem, no one got sued. And money out of my own pocket, out of my own commission, which I don't get back, like everything, which is fine. Like I'm not commission hungry. I'm just like, but you screwed us over. And you had 3 months to get this thing done. I did it in a week. Like, why am I doing your job? So yeah, I had to be blatant about it. I've had to fire him. Yeah. Another mortgage broker works for a bank, and he'd heard some things about him. And I was like, I can't work with you anymore. I'm like, I am not The clients I'm bringing you are A clients. Even if they're B clients, I'll tell you that too. That's like, if they need some help, I am not committing mortgage fraud. I don't want to hear about it. So if that's all your whole game is, and I was like, it's like, I think that was his whole game he was doing to other clients, stuff to want to make money on the side. Never work with him again.
And how forgiving are you to work with someone again, or work with someone who has a bad reputation and take on them as a partner?
Reputations are one thing. It's like you have to see, like I've given people second chances a lot of times, unless you do something like we just, like that story. There's no coming back from that.
Yeah.
And I'm not losing my license for you either. So I'm not going to do any type of fraud that I know about. I'm not doing it. So if your whole thing is to do some fraud, you're not my game.
You're not it.
I'm not losing. I need to feed my kids. I can't. Like,
you got a bigger picture.
Bigger picture for what?
Exactly.
Like a $10,000 paycheck, which is nice, but it's like I'm like lose.
That 10,000 could be $200,000-$300,000 worth.
More.
Like more, even like more than 500, $1 million even.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
It could be millions.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just not worth it. So I'm forgiving to some level, and I'm like, reputation's one thing, and it's like, the reputation you just got to take it with a grain of salt, because but if something physically happens to you, I don't know about you, if somebody's screwing you on purpose, not even on purpose, or if you screw up, we've talked about this before, of course, and I'll say this again, you screw up, man up to it and say, listen, and Julia was behind me there too, and Elise were talking about this today. I'm like, hey, when I was wrong, I say I'm wrong. I don't try to say that as like, oh, blame somebody else. Like, oh, I screwed up today. Like that. There's nothing wrong with screwing up. And there's nothing wrong with screwing up and then fixing you should be fixing your problem. Don't just throw up your hand and say, oh, I screwed up, I'm not going to do anything. That's if you do that.
And ask some action behind it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that shows a good character. I think, because we all screw up all the time. That's not the screw up is not the problem. It's how you react to that and how you face that adversity.
Beating it to the punch too, not actually getting caught in it. Oh yeah, my bad. It's actually, hey, if you knew you screwed up, meet the problem face on and actually admit it, and okay, here are the possible solutions on how to move forward from that. 100%, man.
And when I have to scramble at the end there, and I'm just like, it's 100.
But one thing I like about you is you are a great entertainer. You actually like to entertain your clients, prospective clients, and people who actually just get to feel the DC brand. Why do you do these things? And like schmooze.
Why do you like to have a party?
Because
let me think about that.
Sometimes they might not even end up yielding anything.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't.
Yeah, but they end up building a relationship. So what is your outlook on that when you actually do these things and you're losing money, but your mindset is, maybe something might come out of it?
I don't even always think it's about coming out of it. Like really, my mindset is like, so what Owen is referring to is, I host tons of parties for my clients. We give them treats as well. So on closing, you get a nice closing baskets. You get
coffee.
I get all that shit. But then you also, on your birthday, you're supposed to. We have a company which gives you, birthday cookies. Unfortunately, like my girl was pregnant, and then she was kind of fell off the ball a little bit for February and March. So hopefully she's back on it. It's just with cookies you get at Christmas time. But then we do host parties, right? So Easter we do an Easter egg hunt for the kids. Then we do, like for Mother's Day, we do mimosas and manicures here at the office. On Father's Day for my clients or fathers, we do a cigar and scotch tasting. And then we do the big Christmas party with Santa and all that other stuff too, happening, skating and all that fun stuff. So those are things we like to do, but it's like, why do we do that? I like to make, staying top of mind. I know realtors, a lot of realtors don't do that stuff, but I like having people physically there. I like talking to them. You've made me successful. I appreciate everything you do, and it's something, a small token to give back. So yeah, I lose money on tons of these things, and it's not about the money. It's about keeping relationships, showing that even you've bought something with me 5 years ago, and you're still getting cookies from me. And it's like, thank you. I appreciate that. I always have something special. Like we had that together. If you move on to another realtor, and I know about it, then you're off the list. But but at least I know I've done my part to making sure we try to stay engaged. And that's thing. It's relationships. I think it shows that I care. That I'm. You're not just a transaction.
You're a man of the people. Right? You're taking care of everybody.
I'd hope so. And I'm like, I'm trying to instill that with my kids to give more than you receive. It's like I don't know where it started. That I've had clients come to me, and Julia will say this to me, or even my old assistant Jesse, like, why do you do so much? Why do you do this? Like, I have clients like, stop. I'm like, no. I'm like, again, like, even if you take the cookies and throw them out, or, do something that hurts. But at the end of the day, you're still top of mind. I still see your name every day, and you're going to see my name. And hopefully it'll, if you ever thought about selling this, is great. I'd love to be part of your, I want to be part of your family. That's because you're part of mine. Like, I like to treat my clients as if they're part of a big family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's levels to this, right? So there's these events you do, like, let's say the Easter egg hunt we got coming up April 8th. For all
Depending on when this airs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
April 8th, if you already were there, hope you had fun. We're recording this before the Easter egg hunt. The one we came, once we start working together, that was like the Christmas one?
Yeah, so we tried to do that either the end of November, beginning of December, before it gets chaotic. We were doing it outside, and maybe this year we might do it inside. So yeah, we do, like, we have my wife's partner who does for photography. We do that, so like to give you professional pictures in there too. We have bringing to Santa Claus, decorating the cookies, skating. We had some booze there the last few years, which is the
Baileys in the morning with a coffee, Dave. Jeez, that thing that hits, man. That
and then
hits,
the food
that's
truck.
point.
You like the food truck too?
I actually didn't even get to have the food truck.
You didn't try the food truck?
We were busy mingling and everything.
Damn, son.
And also,
I don't get to eat at the food truck because I'm always talking.
That day, I remember, ask Alex this. I wore like ankle socks with these sneakers, and my toes were frozen, bro. Like, I was chilling underneath that hut. I was legit stationary. I couldn't even move. So to make my way up the hill, like across like the tundra of grass, it was just tough. It was tough.
Yeah. Well, this year I think we're gonna do it indoors, just because there's, like, last year there was a lot of wind and rain, and we just weren't sure of the elements if we were gonna be able to do it. So I spent so much money doing that. I can't leave it up to the elements to wipe it out clean.
Yeah.
We had half the people show up. We still had like a couple hundred people show up. So
So I was gonna say, there's those type of events, and then there's like the ones where you're actually schmoozing. You know what I mean? Like, you're taking them to Raptor games. Like, there's big things you do to really take care of people.
Yeah.
Talk more about that.
I haven't taken anybody to Raptor games because this has been crazy too. But instead of going to Raptor games, the more intimate ones, we try to, if even like, your birthday is something too, we try to get close with some of the clients that are around. And unfortunately, I don't have time to take out like everybody out for dinner for that too. So it's why we do the Mother's and Father's Day ones. There's only smaller groups of people. We do other events like, like even first time home buyers or investors. Like, so try to get intimate and talk.
Intimate, exactly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I would love to be able to, take everybody out for dinner for their birthdays, or take them to all the Raptor games or Leaf games, but it just, fortunately, you're always going to miss somebody out, and it just doesn't. And I don't even have a chance. I don't even go myself to all those games. I get taken out to some of those, and that's the chances I get to go. Otherwise, that'd be amazing if I could take everybody out.
Exactly. Do you set boundaries between business and personal?
Not always.
Not always?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I find if you know me, you know my business. I don't like being two different people. I'm not good at lying. I don't like to pretend to somebody I'm not. So if you know me, you already know my business. My clients frequently come to my house all the time. I'm open about that too. And then I know some people like to separate church and state, as they say. For me, you're a big part of my life. My clients are a huge part of my life. So it's me.
Yeah. What hurts more, being lied to or trust being broken?
Can I say both?
Choose one.
I think trust being broken.
Yeah, why?
Sometimes you can tell when someone's lying. When your trust is broken, you've given a lot of faith in somebody, and they deliberately break that trust.
It takes years to build that trust, and then in an instant, boom, gone.
I give a lot of people a lot of trust, and I give you enough rope to hang yourself, I guess. And it's happened a few times, and I'm trying to forgive them.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
And do you feel like it's because you give yourself like off so much? You give information, you spread positivity, you spread love. Like, you're a big giver. And I've known you for, I think, 6 months now. And I've only seen that part of you. It's like give. I've never, ever felt as if you're a taker. It's just always, even if you have, and if it's little, you're giving. How do you bounce back if someone has taken so much from you, but they've never poured back in?
It's part of the game, man.
It's part of the game.
I think my faith keeps me that. It's at the end of the day, you have to look yourself in the mirror and just realize you're not that person. I have a lot of friends or acquaintances that are always takers. You just label them, and they are what they are. Just don't expect anything from them.
You don't ever feel like cutting them off, like, you know what? Like,
I've
I know
tried.
you're an orbiter in my life, and you're just gonna keep taking.
At the end of the day, when they call me, they need help, and they have. I'm always the first in line to help them. Just who I am.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to change who I am because you're an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing about relationships too, right? We tend to segment people, and we understand you are going to be like this for me, and I'm going to cut you off. But sometimes it can feel as if it's going against our own character, because we have to put on a front to someone to say, you know what, I'm going to be a dick to you because you're a dick to me. But then I'm not going to be like that, because I'm like, why? It's not, as you and I are both like followers of Christ.
It changes your character.
Exactly.
It's like anything else. Once you let the darkness creep in, it takes over. Because where do you stop? Right? It's identify the darkness, identify that, figure out what it is, label it. Labels are huge things. Doesn't say it doesn't still sting, but at the same time, it's like, don't let it affect who you are as a person. You know, like and sometimes it does affect you, and you have to sit back and just let it bother you but give it a time limit. You know, I was watching that guy, have you ever seen like the Perfect Morning? I think he does 7 things in the morning, and it was a guy basically, he died and they're bound back life, and it's a great book, and he came and he talked about it, and he's like, he gave himself 5 minutes to be upset at the movie because this guy had nothing to live for. It's a great story. It's something about the Miracle Morning. That's what's called, the Miracle Morning. You had a chance to read that. It's great. And he was just basically saying, so you think about that. And he goes, start up being 5 minutes of being angry, and then it goes down to 4. And he goes, I'm down to like 30 seconds, man. Don't let something like that consume you.
Let's say people who love you the most, seeing you being taken advantage of by these relationships which don't serve you. Let's say someone like Natalie, and she's like, hey, like, why do you keep doing this?
She asks me all the time.
Why do you keep giving and caring?
Because that's who I am.
And how does she feel about that? Does it make her mad?
No, it doesn't affect her. She still gets the benefits of being married to me.
You see? I feel you. Yeah.
No, honestly, we've had those conversations that we talk about sometimes and say, yeah, so there's some people you just need to hang around less and less. And like, especially if it changes your character, then and you just kind of like, you don't respond as much, right?
Yeah.
And it's a thing that at the end of the day, Owen, you got to know who you are, what you want to be in this world, and don't let anybody wave you from that. And there's going to be a lot of negative stuff, whether it's negative energy, whether it's, negative things happen in your life, and you can change, but know who you are and who you want, and the positive you pour through. And hopefully those people will realize that sometimes they just fade away. They can't bring you down with them, and they kind of give up a lot of times.
Yeah. Also, I just want to share this with you. Like, I tend to give a lot too, because I'm always positive. I'm always giving into people. And there was a time that I felt like, I kind of had this, it's like a revenge kind of feeling within me. I'm like, man, like, screw all these people. Like, I'm done being this good person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just felt so angry. But then you sit with it, like, I can't be that. I cannot be Owen at the end of the day because of what this person said to me, what this person did to me. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm someone who just wants to love and wants to give. And it sucks because I can relate to that, because people feel like they can take advantage of your kindness at times, and all the time, and it kills me. But I'll never stop loving that person. But you just gotta learn to love from afar and just remain who you are, remain true to who you are. And at the end of the day, like, that's, you gotta do God's work at the end of the day, which is just giving and loving all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wrap up with that, buddy.
Wrap up with that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into DC Talks. I'm your co-host, Owen Osinde, Agent 00. That was episode 15. We'll be back next week to talk about house flipping and all that good stuff that you can learn from flipping real estate. DC, any lasting words?
Stay true to yourself, and you'll never be wrong.
Absolutely, man. Great chat, as always.
All right, Bello.
Respects.
Ciao.
Peace.